Hello Amaia.
Hello. Oh, that's a good question to begin. Well, I'm Amaia Elizaran, and I began dancing when I was 3 years old. So I started with ballet when I was a little kid, and I never had to take a decision to go to a class. It was just, they brought me there, suddenly I was dancing, and I haven't stopped till now. So whenever some people ask me, like, when did you decide to be a dancer? I don't know, I never decided. I was there already when I was 3, and I never thought of leaving, so that's the way I began. And so there was no contemporary dance where I live when I was young, so I only had ballet. But there was a moment when I was around 12 years old that they started bringing contemporary dance teachers and choreographers to an arts center that doesn't exist anymore. So a lot of people from my generation would go there to try the new things that were coming to the Basque Country. So I realized there that I was much more comfortable with contemporary than with ballet because, I mean, as I didn't know anything else, it was cool to dance ballet. But then when I tried contemporary, I was like, oh, okay, I feel much better doing this than everything else. So then I started doing some research and trying to find different teachers that I could learn from. So I started going to Barcelona to study with people, and just they would bring more and more people at that stage to the Basque Country as well. So we had the opportunity to learn from different contemporary teachers. So when I was 16, I said, okay, now I really want to keep going with this, and I couldn't. We didn't have like regular contemporary classes or like a dance training in the Basque Country at that time. So I went to Madrid to do my contemporary dance studies, and I graduated 10 years ago now. So that was like my first period of dance training. And since then, I did my first project with James Wilton in London a long time ago. And I've done in different contemporary dance projects in Europe, but there was a moment where I had no work at all. And I said, oh, maybe it's time to try my own stuff. But it was never in my head. So I never had an idea of being a choreographer. I mean, I don't feel like I'm a choreographer actually, but that was never in my head. So I said, okay, I have nothing now. I'm going to try and create something, and let's see if first of all, if I'm capable of doing it, and then if I enjoy being in a process, and yeah, let's see how that works. So I did it, and I realized how hard it is, but how rewarding is as well. So like a new path opened for me, and it's been like around 8 years now that I've been doing my own work. And actually in a loop, it's my piece number 8.
Okay.
But it's the first one that I'm not dancing.
So. The other ones you were dancing?
Yes. Nice. Yeah. Because I began creating as well because I wanted to dance. I wanted to dance, and I didn't want to do any more auditions. I was like, this is not for me. I just like, most of them are fake. It's so hard to just find like your place. And I don't even know if I would like to be in a company for a long period of time. I like collaborating with different artists. So that's where I am now.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's a collaboration between the Basque Country and Quebec. So every year, I don't know how many years ago they started doing this, but a few choreographers have been coming here to do this residency. So this year, last year I sent the application to come here to do this creation, and they selected me. So that's why I'm here.
And to talk about that, do you see like some differences between the dance Spanish world and maybe the Quebecois dance world that you can see?
I mean, yes and no. I think that there are trends in every places, but also I haven't been here for that long to know all the scene. It's true that what I've seen, it's different from what is happening now in the Basque Country, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's a completely different thing either, because everything is very mixed now as well. And I don't know what the difference would be between the two things. I think it's just both things are very interesting, different points. So for me, it's nice to come here and see things that I wouldn't see there, because I don't know the choreographer, I don't know the background of that company. It's something new, so it's like I'm open to receive that, and it's nice to receive things that are new. But in the Basque Country, I more or less, if I go to see a show, I know what I'm going to see,
Sure.
more or less. So that's more the difference. Yeah, different way of creating maybe, but I don't think we are that far. That was a huge challenge for me. I was very, very scared before coming, but I really enjoyed being outside and being able to take decisions quickly. I mean, not quickly just to just go like that, but you see very quickly what is working and what is not working. And when you are dancing on your own piece, you don't see it. So you have to record, watching a video, or call your friends and other choreographers or some people to help you and trust them, but you don't have like a direct information coming to you. You have to trust your perception, which I think is interesting as well, to trust your own feeling and not be obsessed about what it looks like from outside. But it takes more time to arrive to certain places, that it's much easier in that way to do it from outside, because you have an idea, you work on that, but then you're watching it. And if it doesn't work, you see it like that very quickly. If it works, or if there is something that, even if it's just this thing that worked, it's easier to find something that made that thing work. So for me, it's very interesting, and it's been a gift to be with a big group of amazing dancers as well, because my idea was very methodical. When I came, I had a very clear idea not about the piece I wanted to do, but yes, about how was the way I was gonna go through the process, more or less. And I know it could be a challenge, and it was probably a challenge for the head, because it's full of details and a lot of subtlety during all the piece. So I didn't know what I was gonna find, and it could have been a disaster. But it's been the opposite. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
And then because the last pieces that you did were mostly solos, or did you have some?
I've done a few solos. I've done a few duets as well. But that's the thing, like having 13 dancers in a company, it's not realistic anymore. There are no budgets to move a big company as well, because of that, everyone is working as a freelancer, at least in the Basque Country and in Spain. I don't know really well how is the scene here, but we share dancers. Each project have shared, like, my dancers work for someone else and for someone else. So if you do a big project with a lot of dancers, there is a risk that if gigs are happening, that they will have problems because they have gigs with someone else. So because there's not money for these things to happen, it's a big risk to be working with a lot of dancers, because then you have a problem as well. So it's very hard. The reality is very hard. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when I'm going to have an opportunity to choreograph that many people again. So yeah, that was good. I don't feel like I'm a choreographer. I'm gonna try and answer, but I've usually, because I'm a dancer in my project, I work a lot into different states on my body, and I very rarely choreograph my works. So that's why I don't feel like a choreographer, because I don't give steps to myself or to anyone else. I try to search more through sensations, tasks that would bring me to a state in my body, and try to improvise and go from there. So that's what I actually, this is the first time I feel like I'm a choreographer. I did a choreography. I passed some material to some people, to the dancers, even if you also brought me new material and you work in your own things, but it's the first time that I actually gave material. So it's like the first time I feel a choreographer. And well, I mean, being a dancer and being a, let's call it creator, they are both very connected in my life, because yeah, I'm dancing, I'm creating, I'm all the time there. Although, because I really trust this process, being from outside, there was something of trust that usually I don't find that much when I'm inside a piece, because I could see that it was working, that you were giving me a lot as well. So being just from outside, watching it happen, was like, I don't know, like a trusting the process and trusting this continuation of the moment that happened all the time, that there was a real flow during all the creation. While if I go to if I think more about when I'm dancing, it doesn't happen as much because I'm inside. So when I'm in the process, it's just different, and I love it as well. But you doubt more about your own work. You don't know really well if it's your perception or if it's the reality. More questions come to yourself that you cannot solve as quickly. But both things are connected to me, being a dancer and being a creator, and I love both things, and I hope to be doing it for a long time. For me, Nalup is continuation of the moment that I said. I'm a huge fan of never-ending situations, never-ending movements, never-ending life. So I think that's it. That's in a loop. And also, lately I've been feeling, and I told you this one day when I was in studio, I think, that when I go back home where I live, I enter to a loop every time I go back. So when I go outside from my town, I do different projects and I discover the world, new people, new things that I get really inspired. When I go back, I say, okay, I'm going to try and keep this. I'm going to try and keep this. I have to try and be inspired there as well. But suddenly, even if you're different and everyone else is different, because time passes, you end up doing the same things in the same way. Even if it's different and time passes, people changes, but there is like a wave that happens again and again and again and again and again and again. And I try to escape, but I guess that it's life, no? That you try to find your own individuality, your things, but there's always a wave that brings you back into a certain time of loop. So, well, I guess there is always something that repeats during all your works, because your interests change, but there is always something that stays there forever. So I would say that all my works are connected to each other in a way. So they are not like, okay, till here and then something new. it's like a continuation in my process, because at the end it's like a life process for me, like all my creations. Also, I've always been very scared about creating, because my way of creating, I never have ideas. Like, I have an idea and I'm gonna try and find it. That doesn't happen to me. So I thought I was not creative, because they made me feel like that wasn't a way of creating. But once I began creating things, I discovered that things happen in studio, and if they happen naturally, you can then take them, the things that happen naturally, you can take them and develop, and then you get, well, that's the way I work. I work from things that happen naturally, and then that are not expected, that suddenly they happen in a studio because you're working in a very simple task, or because you're just improvising, playing, and suddenly you're like, oh, wow, that was incredible. How can we try and find that? And that's where I begin trying to research that thing that happened. So I never have ideas.
How do you create movements for a piece that you're sure that's the good movement for the piece?
I think you're never sure about that. Or that's like a never-ending research, because I also struggle a lot to create movement, actually. That's why I improvise most of the time, because I feel like it's more natural. But then as well, when you try and find the movements through improvisation, but then try to kind of write them, but it's always so I think it's hard work to find them, because I don't know what's the answer for that. I struggle with that too. So I think you have to also trust, and sometimes I also think that the steps are not important at all. So it doesn't really matter what the steps are. It's the work that comes after, or even before. Like, how do you come from, or what is your state in your body? How do you afrontar? How do you? What's inside of you? What's your mood, or where are you coming from to take that step? Because that changes everything. So it's like the step of the movement, or the movement is just the cause of something else. It's not the main. But that's my way of creating, and I know that some other creators do the other way around, and I really admire, because it's like, wow, like, that's so cool. But that's my way. At first, it began just because it was one of the subjects in my dance school. So I was 16 when I began yoga, and at the beginning it was more like I didn't understand what was yoga, actually. But I knew it was good for me. It was good for my body, it was good for my head, it was good for my breath. But I never gave as much importance as now. But 1.5 years ago, I had a really bad injury. And I realized that yoga can be very therapeutic, but it can cause you pain as well. And I realized that I was not maybe working in a very healthy way through yoga. And I had to begin from zero to learn, to relearn how was my posture. Because if my posture was wrong, just being standing or seated, once you begin doing different poses, it can go worse, your pain. But it can also heal. So I had to begin from zero, and suddenly I had to forget all my idea that I was a dancer, like with very simple things. And I discovered that once I began changing my way of practice, because I was also seeing many physiotherapeutic physios and stuff, but even if they did their work well and I felt good after the session, I started doing my own patterns through my body, so the pain would come back. So I discovered that I had to change my way of work. And it's so hard to change the way you work. I mean, you can do it through dance, but suddenly we go mad and we don't have that much time to learn. It's like we catch it and we do it, and usually it's fine. But when suddenly you have a pain that comes back, you need to stop and relearn stuff. And it's been a long process. It's been nearly 2 years now. But I felt like I felt a huge transformation in my body, and I felt like my pains are disappearing, even the ones I didn't know I had, that they were there. So it's tough to stop and relearn, but then once you start, I mean, for me it's a great tool to relearn, to go back to the basics, to the principles, and then try to apply that in all the dance classes, the pieces, because when you are at school and you have technique class and stuff and you have the teacher looking at you, it's not that hard to, I mean, you can get injured, but you're kind of supported and things could happen. But when you are on your own and you're a freelancer and you have to keep your body fit and you have to be in shape and you start doing your own work, your own performances, but you have no one seeing it from outside, and you repeat 200 times the same thing and you're saying, oh yeah, I'm not doing any pain, but suddenly your body says, and you're like, why did this, like, where, what happened? So for me, it's a great tool. There are a lot of good things from yoga, but at the moment, that's the huge thing, is that a huge transformation that I went through, and because of that, I feel like my body is much more flexible, stronger, but not because I've been forcing, just because I've been doing actually the opposite and being more efficient. And I'm also a huge fan about less is more. So I'm always trying to find that point where you don't go too far. So yeah, that's it. I don't know. Maybe I'll be back one day. I don't know. Actually, the other day I was thinking, like 10 years ago, I was graduating in school. I was in a school like you. And if someone had told me that I would be here creating this piece for you, I would be like, no, you're crazy, you know? So I don't know. I don't have like a goal of nothing. I just want to keep finding my own way, keep creating stuff, sharing. I like teaching as well, so.
Do you have some ideas, even if ideas don't come to your mind, but do you have some project that you would like to do with some people or in some countries or places?
I have a few. I mean, in all my works, I collaborate with musicians. There is live music in all my shows, so usually my starting point is finding the musician or the musicians I'm going to work with. So I have a new idea, but I don't know when that's gonna happen. But that's like the first thing that usually comes to me, the music, and then everything else.
What's the place of the music in your work? Like, do you start working because of the music, or like the music comes after? Like, what's the place of the music?
Usually, first of all, I fall in love with some kind of music. And then once I have that musician or that musicians with me in studio, we just play together. And then we see what we like or what we don't like. This was the first time with you that I didn't have someone creating the piece, like the music piece for the work. So I kind of had a few songs from Neonimus, that it's called The Musician. So I knew more or less what it was going to be like. But yeah, I mean, I'm, how do you say, mal acostumbrada. It's like when you're used to musicians doing their music for you, so I'm like new in this way of choosing music.
Well, thank you, Amaia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.